Today's a fun one.
Today is a fun one because we get to talk about one of my favorite topics of all time.
You like to geek out about this
I
a little bit.
love to geek out about YouTube. Love it.
YouTube's a science. Yeah, it's fun and it's a fun way to be creative, but it's also, it's an algorithm. And I think it's enticing to figure out like what works and what doesn't. Chris loves that. I don't love it, but he loves it. So today we have a fun guest. Her name is Katie Steckly, and she's one of our newer friends. We met her at Sony Camera Camp actually back in March. Katie is YouTube social media pro. She knows everything about social media. I know this is a travel podcast, but there is a rhyme and a reason to why we're having her on.
She doesn't just tell you how to grow your YouTube and Instagram, all of that jazz. She actually travels by van too.
We really wanted to have her on the podcast because a lot of people do ask, how do I start a YouTube channel? They want to do a travel channel, or maybe they just want to know how to start a channel or to how to film and document because they want to record their family's memories and they aren't even going to release it to the world. And so we wanted to have Katie on because Katie knows it really well. And Katie knows what it's like to be a traveler and to use these skills. And so she's going to share with us her YouTube insights. So if you're just curious about like what happens behind the scenes on YouTube or Instagram or any of that kind of stuff, Katie is a wealth of knowledge on all things camera reviews, tech reviews, social media strategies, everything over on her channel. But today specifically, she's going to talk with us about starting a YouTube channel because I feel like that is the most asked question we get on our channels. People want to know what to do.
People want to know, how do you do this? How can you travel and put it on YouTube? And Katie really dives into that and kind of the best practices, but also some things that you may not hear anywhere else.
All right, so let's just get into it.
Katie, I'm so excited that you're here because one, we met you just a few weeks ago at Sony Camp, and that was a lot of fun. But two, we're going to be talking about a topic that I love talking about a lot, and that's YouTube and all things considered. So thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, you are a YouTube expert. Besides owning or running 2 YouTube channels of your own, one of those channels is teaching others about social media and a lot about YouTube. So I feel like you are the perfect guest to have on here to talk about like learning to start a YouTube channel. So
people ask us all the time. They're like, how do you start a YouTube, do all this? And we're like, we're the worst examples that they should be asking.
Yeah, we didn't do it the normal way, the conventional way.
Yeah. So tell us your story. Like how did you get on YouTube? What do you do? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So I started my current YouTube channel back in the olden days of 2011. So I was actually on YouTube a little bit before then, but my current channel I started in 2011. So I was like kind of an awkward like preteen at that time. And I kind of originally just got started because I was watching a lot of YouTube and kind of pursuing my like nerdy interests through finding like a community online. So I grew up in a really small town, kind of rural area. And some of the interests that I had, I didn't really have friends at school that wanted to like nerd out with me about like Harry Potter and stuff like that. So I started making YouTube videos as a way to kind of express those interests and watch videos from other people on similar topics. So that's really what originally got me into it. And then from there, I just kind of kept making videos about whatever I was interested in throughout high school and university. So I was making vlogs and complaining about math class and just all those teenage things, like whatever I kind of cared about at the time, I would make YouTube videos about it. So I did that through high school and university. And during that time, YouTube also changed a lot. So I kind of started to see a lot of creators start to go from just doing it as a hobby to having this as a career. So I kind of realized like, oh, this is something that you can do and like make money off of it. Like that seems really, aspirational to me. And because I always loved doing it for fun. So as I got into university and I started like doing internships and seeing what the 9-to-5 life could potentially look like, it just inspired me even more to pursue YouTube and try to turn that into a career. And by the time I graduated from university, the full-time YouTuber like was well established as like a potential career path online. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But I kind of ran into a problem, which was I didn't have that many subscribers. When I graduated, I only had like, I want to say like 1,500 YouTube subscribers or something. So I knew that wasn't going to be enough for me to start getting a ton of brand deals and like make a full-time income off of it. And so at that point, I was like, okay, how can I do this kind of YouTube thing without actually having a big audience. Like, how can I turn that into a job? And so that's when I started experimenting with freelancing. So I started making videos for local businesses. I would like film home tours for like real estate agents. I shot weddings, basically anything that like somebody would pay me to do. If I used my camera, I would do it. And so that's how I got into like the world of creative freelancing, which has now eventually grown to my agency. And then during that time, my YouTube channel started to grow further. So I kind of realized like, oh, what's been the common theme and everything that I've, done on YouTube? I always struggled to kind of find my niche. And I realized like, oh, what I'm really passionate about is just creating and like helping other people express themselves creatively through, online media. So then I started making videos on my main channel about like how to grow on Instagram and Instagram story hacks and that kind of thing. And that's really when my channel started to grow. And then that eventually turned into the income stream that it is now with brand deals and everything else associated with it. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell. I started out as a very nerdy, cringy teenager, and I'm still a little bit nerdy and cringy, but now I get paid to do it. So
That's right.
Love it. You said something I wanted to ask about. That was going to be my next question, actually. And you said on your main YouTube channel. So people may know you from your more information-based channel, but you also have a vlog channel. So can you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, for sure. So what I refer to as my main channel is just, it's Katie Steckly. So youtube.com/Katie. And that's where I share my social media tips. And that's my main like income source. But in 2020, I actually started a vlog channel, and it's called Katie and Dan in a Van, because my husband's name is Dan. And we bought and converted a Ram ProMaster into a camper van in the fall of 2020. And that was just a dream of mine for a long time. And I was like, I want to document this. And I always had kind of aspirations to be a travel vlogger back in the day. I mean, like, who hasn't dreamt of that at one point, I think.
For sure, yeah.
So that's kind of me pursuing that. Yeah.
I always forget that you have a van. Like I know your travel channel and everything, but then every time we see you, I'm like, oh yeah, she's a van lifer too. We just have so many van lifers in our community. So I just want to.
No, so
I love it.
People are probably listening because they want to start a YouTube channel, or maybe they already have one and they're trying to grow it. They're trying to get to where you're at. Like, you've got money, like a living associated with what you're publishing. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that the main channel that you're teaching people how to do it, that's the main channel. That's where you're making the most money. But then your travel vlogs that you're traveling around, is that still making like income for you? Is that like, what does that look like in this structure?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you ask, because actually just last week, my vlog channel got monetized.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That's a recent development for me. So yeah, for context, for anybody listening, my main channel has 200,000 subscribers, and Katie and Dan in a Van just has recently surpassed 1,500 subscribers. So it's like a little baby channel, but it's just been monetized. I think we've made like $15 off of it so far. So feeling good about that.
That's a burrito somewhere.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I started it as something just to do for fun. And I kind of got to the point where for so long, my YouTube channel, like back when I was a student, was a hobby, like something that I did for fun. And then when it became my job, obviously there's different pressures associated with that. And you kind of feel the need to watch the analytics a bit closer and follow what the audience demand is. And obviously create stuff that's compatible with like brand sponsorship. And I feel like super, super grateful to be able to create YouTube content on that scale. But I was kind of missing like, what about just making vlogs for fun that like, it doesn't really matter, how it performs. So that was kind of part of my original intention with the vlog channel, and being able to share our travels with our family back home. But it is very exciting that it's growing into a little bit of a side business, I guess.
Yeah. And I want to ask about them. So do you take different strategies for both of the channels? Because I know they're very different in content. Is it like one's experimental for you, kind of like test ideas, and then one's consistent? Like, what does that look like running two different channels?
Yeah, I definitely have different approaches for them. So for my main like educational channel, I really try to focus on kind of FAQs, or like going based on what I'm hearing from my audience, and even going on struggles that I've had as a creator and like how I've overcome them. So yeah, it's very much, how to, a little bit tutorial, but also, strategies that I've learned and I'm kind of trying to share with others to make their creator journey a little bit easier. So that's kind of how I think about developing content for my main channel. Then when it comes to the travel vlog channel, at first it was totally like there was no strategy. It was just like, oh, let's pick up the camera and film to show, our family what we're up to while we're traveling in our van. But more recently, we kind of got more excited about like, how can we like really tell a story and make something that would be worth watching, even if you had no idea who we were. So we started kind of developing like, okay, we're going to go to like whatever city, and let's say like Valencia, Spain or whatever is one of our recent vlogs. And, then we ask ourselves like, what is interesting about Valencia? Like what kind of story can we tell there? What would the title and thumbnail be? And then we try to keep that in the back of our minds as we're like, going around and vlogging our experience of the place. So yeah, it's definitely two very different approaches, because I don't know, when you're creating something that's just educational, it's very much like, okay, I've got the title and thumbnail and like I write a script based on that. Like I know exactly how the video is going to play out before I ever start filming. But from the vlog side of things, I try to put a story to it ahead of time so that it can be more structured and a little bit more intentional. But ultimately, you can't predict what your experience is going to be or what's going to happen. So you kind of have to figure out some of that after the fact. So it's a balance of pre-production and, just going with the flow in the moment.
We know that
Yeah,
well.
we know that very well.
know that, yeah.
Yeah.
So many times we go in with an idea and then it just gets scrapped because the experience is nothing like we think. But that's part of the fun in YouTube is just that's the creation process when you're doing travel. But
and that's why we got excited about doing a podcast, because we're like, oh, now we feel like we can actually plan and like move forward. I'm like, this is how normal people create things. Like
not normal,
Yeah.
but different genres of people.
Yeah. And so, the whole travel vlog is, it's all dependent on what you experience too, because if it's not happening, then
Different challenges with each one, but for growth especially. But that's kind of one of my next questions is, okay, so we're in 2023. YouTube is, I think social media in general is going through a lot of change, but YouTube in general is going through a lot of change and has been for the last year or two with short form content. And I think when people are looking at content creation right now and trying to start a channel, I know what I keep hearing over and over is do short form content. You have to be doing YouTube shorts right now. So you, as the professional on this side, what are your thoughts on short form content? Is it a must? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you do it because you have to do it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I feel like this is an area where my like thoughts are continuing to evolve, because I think going into the beginning of the year, I was very much sold on like, yeah, it's all about shorts. Like I'm going to really blow up my YouTube channel by posting a lot of shorts. And I think what I've come to realize over the past couple of months is that I really get the vibe that somehow kind of like on this like invisible back end of YouTube, you almost have like a different subscriber count for your shorts versus for your main content. Like I know they've made changes and they've like said this publicly that the two algorithms are kind of more interconnected. So people who see your shorts will ultimately get your long form stuff in their homepage and in their recommended. But at the same time, in my own experience, and I've heard this from other people too, I don't know how much crossover there truly is. Like, I feel like you see channels that are like super, super successful with short form, and then they kind of post their long form video and it's like, where are all the viewers?
Right.
And vice versa. So like for me, I've been posting long form obviously for a long time, and I see like a certain level of performance with that. But then with my short form content, I would be happy to like get the same number of views that like my worst performing long video gets. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a whole different bar for success, at least on my channel, but I think a lot of others experience this too, that you can't expect to have the same results from your shorts that you do from your long form. Now, I don't think that means that it's like not worth pursuing short form content if it's something you're excited about and you think that your audience is going to like, but I don't think that it's 100% like the exact same audience is going to see both. I think there is kind of a difference there.
Yeah.
I agree with that completely.
100%.
We've seen a lot of people, and especially in our niche with travel, some people are just killing it with shorts. And you can tell that that is their bread and butter. And yes, you can see the numbers translate to some of their long form videos. But it seems like that's really where their audience and their sub numbers coming from is those shorts. So but you can tell like the long form they're struggling with, and then vice versa. We're seeing a lot of people who have been making long form content videos for years, and their shorts, like they just cannot get that momentum. And I'm like you, I kind of feel like there is maybe our like YouTube conspiracy where we think like there is that secret number on the back and like they are separating them out, but it definitely feels like that because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Like, it's frustrating because I don't
It's-
feel like we fully grasp it yet.
it's frustrating, and then it's very, because even from a creating standpoint, we create long form content, and that's kind of how our mindset is. And then creating short form content, I'm like, okay, it's a different part of the brain. And so you try to trick your brain into creating something flashy and snappy and really fast. And sometimes it goes against every gut feeling that you have. You're like, I don't like this, but maybe somebody else will. And then you do it, and then it spikes, and then it's just dead. And you're like, well, that was a lot of work for 200 views. It just wasn't a lot. And I feel like people get caught up in it in shorts, like even us, because recently it's just been pounded in our heads everywhere on social media. You have to do reels, you have to do short, you have to do all of the short form content. And I feel like it's like a necessary evil, but I don't even know where I'm going with this.
I don't know. Correct me if we're wrong, because Katie, you know more about this. Like, you study this stuff all the time, and half the time Chris and I are just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks. But it feels like short form content, for me, Chris is right. Like, we don't think that way. We're getting better about making our brains think that way. It's like a whole nother muscle we have to flex. But for me, as a long form creator, I feel like I'm usually writing novels or something, and now I'm being forced to make like a short story, and it's not quite the same form of creation. Like, I don't want to say it's not video creating, but it's a totally different kind of video creating. Like, it almost feels like I personally wish YouTube had pulled them apart, but that's not the topic of this conversation. We can't give YouTube advice. We're working with YouTube. But for me, it's a weird thing we're being told to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
If we were starting out, I mean, is that what you would recommend? Would you recommend somebody starting out just do shorts, or do long? I mean, do everything? Like, what? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like what you guys are getting at is a really, really good point about how it really is a different creative process entirely to create short form video versus long form video. And that's why it is very interesting to me that they are kind of like blended together both on YouTube. I mean, I personally feel like shorts was just created because YouTube was like, oh my gosh, we got to get on this like vertical short form thing. Right. Everybody else is doing it, so we have to. So I don't necessarily think it was like the most well thought out platform ever, because it is such a different vibe. Like, the idea of like TikTok is so different than traditionally YouTube has been. So I kind of feel like, I don't know. I think that there are some really successful hybrid creators, but I also think that for somebody totally starting out, they should, lean towards whatever you feel most passionate about. So if you feel like you really love watching TikTok and that's kind of your main platform where you consume content and you think you'd be good at making TikToks, then maybe lean into the short form stuff and just really pursue that, and not necessarily pressure yourself to do both like right off the hop. Because I do think it is like a really different muscle. And I think for a long time, I was struggling to figure out, how can I do both? I'm used to making longer videos. How do I do this whole, TikTok or Reels or Shorts thing? And especially because originally TikTok was so trends oriented, and it still is to some extent in Reels as well. But I was trying to like force my niche to fit into, it's kind of like, a square peg in a round hole or whatever. It's like, how do I make my content fit into this whole like trendy, like doing dances kind of thing? And I did that for a while. And whatever, I throw myself wholeheartedly into whatever challenge, but it's like a little bit awkward, didn't fully fit until recently, like the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I kind of experimented with just essentially making shorter YouTube videos, but filming them vertically. That's kind of how I started thinking about it. And that's been very successful for me on Reels, especially. It's been mildly successful on TikTok, but for whatever reason on Instagram, like it's really accelerated my growth. So like I started this year with around like 35,000 Instagram followers, and I just recently passed 75,000.
Wow.
So that's been like unprecedented growth for me. Like I had never seen that kind of growth on Instagram before. And it's just from literally taking the same vibe, same style that I make in my YouTube videos, but only like, taking on a topic that would take me like a minute and a half to discuss, but like adding B-roll, adding graphics, like the same way that I would to a YouTube video, but just a lot shorter and more fast paced. So that's worked out well for me. I feel like I probably should lean into like using those same reels and posting them on YouTube Shorts as well, but I'm kind of like superstitious and nervous about my YouTube channel. So I avoid like too crazy of experimentation. But so I feel like it is such a mindset thing. Ultimately, when it comes to balancing long form and short form, you kind of have to figure out what your approach is going to be for both. And I would say it's okay to, especially when you're just getting started, focus on one or the other and not like try to spread yourself too thin.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
That
Yeah.
is good advice. I think a lot of people, us included, do that. I feel like we, like you try to get everything, you try to like meet everybody's needs, and then you end up not helping anybody, and you're stressed out, and you're like, yeah, it's just so focus on one thing.
Focus on one thing. Yeah. I think at the end of the day though, like we all want to grow, because even though they're saying like YouTube, the sub number has become such a vanity number because, you know, people are growing crazy sub numbers just from shorts, and all the long form people out here were like, is that the same? Is it really? And I don't want to say it isn't, you know, but it definitely feels different. Like YouTube's changed. But we all want to grow at the end of the day. So I think we're all going to try whatever we can. But the reminder that at the end of the day, you have to do what you're passionate about. Like you got to be true to like what you want, which that may sound cheesy, but it's true. So
true.
And it's not the only, I shouldn't say short form or long form. Like there's not just one perfect way to grow on YouTube, which kind of leads me to my next question, which is SEO on YouTube. What are your thoughts on SEO on YouTube in 2023? Is that still a thing that we should consider?
Yeah, I think that is something like so interesting to consider, because when I originally was really growing on YouTube, it was completely an SEO based strategy. I was just like, how can I show up in search? How can I, you know, get people to find my tutorials via search? And I think there still is some benefit to that depending on the type of content that you make. But in my experience, I think that sometimes if you lean too much into search, which it definitely works, right? Like optimizing your videos using like titles that are going to help you show up in search, all of that kind of stuff. Like it does let you show up in search, you know, like that is true. But the problem with almost leaning too much into search traffic, I have found, is that you end up kind of developing a pretty like transactional audience rather than like what I would call a relational audience. So I personally have found that I think like my subscriber count is pretty inflated compared to what my actual community is. And part of that is because I've leaned so much into search traffic in the past and kind of generated viewers that came to me because they wanted to watch like one tutorial on how to make a TikTok and then didn't really care about what I was making after that. So I think that's really the danger of really leaning hard into SEO, because it can get you that traffic, but it might just be traffic that kind of cares about watching that tutorial, like watching that travel guide, and then saying, okay, you know what, I don't care about these people. I don't need to like watch their videos anymore. Because I got what I needed from it. Whereas I think if you kind of lean into other discovery methods, like the homepage especially, then you can kind of build more of a relationship with people. And especially if you can bring your personality into the videos, tell a really strong story, then you can actually start to build a community, rather than my kind of approach in the past on YouTube, which was just making the most concise, the most to the point tutorial possible so that I wouldn't lose anybody's attention and so I could show up in search as much as possible. You know, that does get you views and it will probably even get you subscribers, but it might not be people that are going to watch all your videos week after week. So I think that's the kind of like benefit but danger of SEO optimization, is like it can help you get further reach, but it might not necessarily be reach that converts into like a real community.
That's interesting. And do you think that would vary from like niche to niche? Because I know you're very information based. Like, do you think certain niches to play more into the SEO than others?
Yeah, I think I do think that like education based channels are going to have an easier time even doing SEO optimization, because you know, I mean, travel to some extent you can, because people are searching for guides to certain locations, but especially just like general lifestyle, like vloggers, I think would have a very hard time even, you know, what would you label it that would show up in search other than your typical like morning routine or, you know, apartment tour or whatever. So I do think that SEO can be more helpful for like some niches that where you can easily label it and people actually are searching for it. And then on the, you know, other side of that same coin, some channels are probably going to have an easier time optimizing for the homepage as well, if you're kind of more story-oriented and you can like come up with flashier headlines and that kind of thing. But that being said, I think that if you get creative enough, no matter what your subject matter is, you can figure out ways to spin it in either direction.
That was really good information. I kind of want to dive back into like your second channel. And you said something interesting to me that, you know, you just wanted to make videos, you wanted to be creative, but now it's monetized and now you're making money, you know? And so has there been a stress or any anxiety or that comes with it of like, now it's not just creating, now it's slowly becoming a business? Because I mean, for us, we started off trying to create memories and doing that, and now it's evolved into this like weird it's still our memories, but we're making money and like, you know, it's everything involved. So with your second channel, are you feeling that, or have you kind of offset that with your main channel?
Yeah, I think this is going to become like a more and more like big question in my mind in the coming years. I mean, fingers crossed that the channel keeps growing. I don't know like if it for sure will, but right now it's such a small like stream of income, and like it doesn't even really compare to my social media agency and my main work as a creator. And then also like my husband has a full-time job, so we're not like looking at trying to make our travel channel into like a full-time gig right now. It's definitely like in the back of our minds, we're like, wouldn't it be fun to just be able to vlog your life? And I know from like hearing other people's experiences, there's definitely downsides to that being like your full-time thing as well. So I don't know, I think it's going to be like a bit of a debate if we can continue to grow the channel, if we ever would decide to make that our full-time thing, because there is something really special about like not worrying too much about the views. Though that being said, like even on a small scale, it still is so exciting to see a 1 out of 10 in YouTube Studio. You know what I mean? Even if it is only like, 25 views in the first 24 hours, but it's 1 out of 10. So, oh my gosh, that's incredible. So I feel like I can definitely feel like the sway of the algorithm, like, pulling me in already in terms of like thinking about what kind of content to make. But at the same time, it's so different from what I make on my like main, social media tips channel, that it's kind of a fun new creative challenge. So it still does have that kind of like fun, exciting, like hobby feeling to me, even if part of that hobby is like trying to figure out what will perform on YouTube, just because it's such a different style of video than I normally make.
You created a video a while ago. You were answering Think Media. I think Think Media came out with a video. It said vlogs are dead. And you had a response to that. And I think that the mindset behind what they were saying is that YouTube has slowly transitioned from watching people live their life to now you're just kind of getting answers. And so I feel like they were persuading people when they start a YouTube channel, like, hey, you need to niche it down and you're answering answers, you're doing all that. No one really cares about you or your life or where you go. Yeah. So can you like, what are your thoughts on that? Like if I'm starting a channel today, does it need to be like super informational, or can it still have the like travel vlog kind of vibe or, lifestyle vibe?
I feel like this is such an interesting conversation because so much of what you see of like people that do the same kind of thing as me, which is like give social media tips. Like if you look up pretty much any YouTube video that's about how to start and grow a YouTube channel, they'll be like niche down as strictly as you can, like have a very narrow niche, answer FAQs, SEO optimize. Like that's the main advice that a lot of people are giving. And I do think that was a quick and effective way to grow a channel, like probably like around when I started, like mid to like late 2010s kind of thing. But I think that what we're starting to see now, and what like I've observed in myself and also lots of other people in my niche that like grew at the same time, is a lot of people get really burnt out off of doing that, off of just like week after week putting out like another how to get 1,000 followers on Instagram style of video. Like it feels very tiresome after a while to just keep trying to optimize for search, keep answering those FAQs. And for a lot of us, the reason why we even started on YouTube is probably because we kind of secretly wanted to be a lifestyle vlogger. Like a lot of people want to be able to just share their lives and gain an audience off of that. Like I'll be honest in saying that's my initial dream like in being a YouTuber, was not to make search engine friendly videos about social media strategy. Like I wanted to be able to be creative and kind of connect with other people that had similar interests. So I think a lot of people have that desire, but, thought, oh, well, if I just SEO optimize the crap out of my channel, like I'll grow and I can make a business and whatever. But I think in like 2023, what we're starting to see is that as the homepage and like recommendations is becoming more and more significant, and people who search for stuff on YouTube, they don't necessarily end up subscribing to a channel, or even if they do subscribe, like how much does subscriptions really mean now that like the homepage is kind of the primary way to find content? I think that we're seeing a shift where like entertainment content and like vlog style content can still definitely help you grow. It's just not going to be in the same way that like people maybe once imagined. So, and I feel like we even talked about this a little bit at camera camp, of like how there used to be kind of this vibe of like, oh, we'll just pick up the camera and like see whatever happens, and like then you put that up as like your daily vlog. And now we're all kind of thinking ahead of time, well, what's the title going to be? What's the thumbnail going to be? Like, how are we going to make a title that's like, I survived for 24 hours in these conditions, or like the real truth about this city, or I went to the, craziest festival on earth. Like that, it's really conceptual now. And I think that there's a time and place for that. I think there is still, some demand for just like more chill vlogs, if you want to call it that. But I guess to wrap all this up, what I'm saying is I do think vlogs can still be an effective way to grow, but you kind of need to layer on this extra bit of like storytelling or like sort of concept above and beyond just like day in my life kind of thing in order to use the homepage to grow.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think flip side, reverse of that works too. Like, you need the information, but you need your personality too to stand out. And because like even we're like you, like we want to share our lives, like we started it for our memories and everything, but we also fall into the trap of like, we know that by making travel guides, by doing a food tour of a city or whatever, and doing all the SEO, like we know that will do well, but it also, I don't like doing that. So it's just a fine balance of like, how much do you do in the same video? How much SEO do you do? How much do you feed the algorithm? And then how much do you do because you love it?
Feed your soul.
Yeah. And that's, because at the end of the day, it's creative, like we love doing it.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think it's a balance.
Yeah, and it's encouraging to hear you say that there's still a place for those kind of like lo-fi blogs, like because I mean, the amount of times that Sarah and I have thought about, all right, we just need to do a 24-hour challenge, lock ourselves in the basement, and do something crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know our audience would be like, what the heck are you two doing?
Yeah, it's so off-brand.
I was just going to say, I do think so every time I like make a YouTube video where I talk about the importance of like concept and storytelling and having like a title that really grabs attention and like, building a really pacey story into your vlog, because I do think that for the most part that is really effective for growth. But I always end up having comments on those videos saying, I love watching just regular old day in the life. I love watching people who aren't really doing anything that interesting. So I think there are people out there that just really love the relaxing vibe of seeing somebody, live their everyday life. And I do think in those cases, if we're honest, then your everyday life does need to be, to at least somebody out there, a bit aspirational or interesting in some way. And aspirational or interesting means something different to everybody. So you can probably find, an audience out there. But I do think that is like a pretty significant component of the lifestyle space, is like a little bit of escapism, a little bit of like seeing how somebody different from you lives. And traditionally people that have been successful in just like generic, lifestyle vlogging, it's because they, maybe have a really beautiful home or have a really great sense of style, or, even like getting to travel is like, something that's such a privilege and like a lot of people don't get to experience to the extent that, like the three of us do. So like it's aspirational in that sense. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I do think that the more chill lo-fi vlog can perform well, but you got to have like an audience for it, basically somebody that would care about your kind of life.
That's good advice. Yeah, I completely agree. So we've talked about the actual YouTube side of it, the structure of what you need on the platform itself. But can we pull back and talk about, you don't even have the channel name picked out or anything, but like, let's start with the gear. Like what would you recommend? Like, we know your tech. We met you at Sony Camp and your tech well. What do you recommend for somebody starting out? I mean, what's the basic?
Yeah, what's the basic? But then also, what's the basic?
Well, it is time for me to be an absolute shill for Sony because I do love them. My recommendation, okay, well, let's back up a minute. If you like are a complete beginner and you are maybe even feeling tentative about investing any kind of money into your YouTube like little side creative project, then I would say getting started with what you have, like using your phone, is a perfect place to start. And I know like that might be cliche, but I like to bring it up every time because truly like you don't need to pour a lot of money into this if you just want to like have some fun and figure out if you even like making YouTube videos, because it's very fun to watch YouTube videos, but you might realize when you start making them that it's not like the same experience as just watching them. So definitely I think get started with whatever you have. iPhones, like whatever, they have great cameras now. But if you are wanting to kind of move beyond that and try out some other gear, my number one recommendation is the Sony ZV-1. Great little vlogging camera. I use it for like all of my travel vlog content, but I also film some main channel videos with it. I actually have mine sitting right here for whoever is on video, but
It's so small.
and then
It's
I know
cute.
it's like
The mic is bigger than it.
It is, yes. And then this is the Rode VideoMicro, which is just like a really affordable shotgun mic that doesn't have like a battery or anything. So you can just plug it in. You don't have to worry about replacing batteries or charging it. And I love the audio on this. Like I find it's like very crisp. And I've tried other shotgun mics, and this is still my favorite. So that's like my go-to vlogging setup.
Yeah. We always get nervous when people ask us about our gear because we've got a Sony A7S III, and that's an expensive camera, and that's not including the lens. And then when they ask us, when we tell them, I'm like, we always try to give this disclaimer of like, don't go buy it because we don't know, like, especially when you're first starting. Because you're right, like
it's not entry level.
It's not entry level, and if you drop $5,000 on a camera setup and then you make one video, I would feel so bad.
And you got to grow into it too.
Exactly.
And we still haven't even grown into our cameras by any means. I mean, these cameras still have far more capabilities than we've even gotten to. But yeah, I think, like you said, I know it's a cliche, but start with what you have. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've been running in through a food market or something, and we don't have our camera, but we have our phone in our pocket. Or, I mean, we've run an entire marathon before, and we didn't carry our big camera. I think we had a GoPro, and we used an iPhone, an old iPhone. And then you get by with what you have. I think one thing that people do overlook, though, is sound quality. Like, sound is really important. So, and I mean, even putting a microphone on a phone, we do our voiceovers in our videos sometimes in a hotel room. We'll just put this little tiny microphone on the bottom, and it changes. It looks it makes it sound so much better.
Yeah.
Totally. I think audio quality makes a huge difference, and that tends to be a rather affordable upgrade you can make. Like getting a little shotgun mic for your phone is a lot cheaper than even buying the Sony ZV-1, which is kind of more on the affordable end, I would say, of that quality of camera.
At what point in somebody's YouTube journey should they invest into a camera? All right, they've made a couple of videos, they started getting is there a a level that you're like, yeah, you should probably level up now?
Yeah, I think it doesn't even necessarily have to be tied to your ability to make money. I mean, if that is important to you and you want it to be a sound business investment, then maybe wait until you've earned enough off of your YouTube channel to invest or whatever. But that's not personally what I did. I started buying cameras. I mean, well, back when I started my YouTube channel, smartphone cameras were not that great. So it was kind of a different time. But I think if you have made a few videos on your phone and you've really enjoyed it, and you're starting to feel oh, there's maybe something more that I could do if I did improve my gear, or I would really appreciate, just personally, I would feel more satisfied by the quality of my videos if I was able to increase it, then that might be a good sign that you're ready to kind of invest and try something new. Because the thing is, for me, even as a literal professional YouTuber, I could probably do pretty much everything that I need to do on my phone. If I really wanted to, I could film my, little sit down, talk about Instagram growth on my phone, and it would be functional. But it's kind of for my own personal creative satisfaction, I like, a higher quality look. I want to be able to make my videos look a certain way, have a certain depth of field, whatever. And so I've upgraded my gear in order to achieve that. So I feel like it's kind of more of a creative question than a practical one, because realistically, you could run a very financially successful YouTube channel off of just the phone that you already have. But if you feel like you would be happier with your result, then you can start investing in other gear. And I mean, to some extent, there are some things that you can only achieve with certain cameras. If you want to film underwater, or if you want to get aerial shots, obviously you need a drone to do that. Or if you want 360 footage, then you need a 360 camera. But yeah, I think a lot of it's just based on your own creative desires and how you would feel about the outcome of your video.
Yeah, that's true.
Real quick, what do you use to edit your videos?
Oh, that's my next question. I was going to ask about tools and software and
cool.
everything.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Love it. Yeah, so I edit with Adobe Premiere Pro. That's what I learned to edit with back in high school. So I've just kind of always been comfortable with it, even though I do have a Mac. So I know a lot of people are get on Final Cut, it'll be so much better. But I am a Premiere Pro girly till the end.
So are we.
Yeah. So
and on Mac.
Yeah.
So.
I grew up editing on Final Cut, but then I do so many After Effects, motion graphics and everything. It just made sense to, stay with Premiere. Editing is one part, filming is one part of YouTube. And I think one thing that a lot of people overlook on YouTube is the community aspect and interacting with your community. And I'm wondering, when we started our YouTube channel, our very first video went viral. and we weren't prepared for it. We didn't know what we were doing. We knew that people commented on YouTube videos, but we didn't know that they would comment crazy things on YouTube videos. And so I'm wondering, for you interacting with, are there any good practices, when it comes to interacting with your community, the people that are following you, all that jazz?
Yeah, I feel like I'm really fortunate to receive like very positive comments. Like I don't know like if it's the vibe of my channel or the niche that I'm in, but like most people are very sweet and encouraging in my comment section, and I just try my best to like reply to as many of them as I can, especially when a video has first been published. That's kind of when I'll prioritize replying to comments. But I do kind of have like a little bit of a rule just for my own mental health that like once a video has far surpassed that, like if the views on a video has far surpassed the number of like followers or subscribers that I have on that platform, I'll kind of stop looking at the comments because that to me has indicated, just in terms of like the views that I normally get, it's very typical for me to get less views on a videos than I actually have of subscribers, right? So if I have a video on YouTube that gets like way more than 200,000 views, I'll probably not pay as close attention to the comments because at that point it might start getting a little bit mean or a little bit weird. Especially I find that on Instagram and TikTok. On YouTube it's not as common, but on the short form platforms it's like, yeah, if a video goes viral, there's probably going to be some like kind of mean stuff in there because that means it's gone beyond my like actual community and followers. So then I'll stop kind of looking and replying because otherwise
That's a good
it might be a
tip.
bad path to go down.
Yeah, that's a good tip. When our first video went viral, like Chris said, and I've never seen people use the words that they've used and the sentence structure they used them in. I was just like, what is
It
happening?
was disgusting.
Granted, 99.9% of the people online are so kind. They really are encouraging. At least on YouTube. We've never been viral, anything short form, so I don't know what that's like, but I've heard not good things about that actually.
Especially TikTok, yeah.
Really? Okay. That's good to know. So we're not getting on TikTok. We weren't on TikTok yet. I'm scared of
Was
TikTok.
that your van tour or what video
was.
went so viral for you? Okay,
It
yeah.
was.
It was
And
our-
so it pushed us in a bunch of weird bubbles.
Yeah, like the van was, so we made it like an MTV style Cribs van,
We
tour.
thought it'd be funny.
We thought it, and so what nobody realizes is that we actually filmed it at Disney World's campground, and so people, they think we're off grid filming this. We're like, no, Mickey Mouse is literally right outside our door, and we filmed it. And then were you in overalls?
I was
in
in overalls, and I have so many overalls, and I'm not ashamed.
Yeah, and so Sarah's
I
in her
love
overalls, and we have all these texts and all that, and then we had 2 iMacs inside the van, and that's what I think got people's interest, and then it just blew up, and we were like, oh wow, 1,000 views, this is cool, this is awesome. And this is our very first video, and that was Sarah's very first time interacting with YouTube because she's not really.
I didn't watch YouTube. I still don't really watch that much YouTube. If I go to YouTube, I'm looking for an answer.
Yeah, and so this was her first time interacting with people. And then all the comments, all the troll comments started coming in, and I'm like, oh no, this is not typical. This is not what we want. Yeah.
But I was bringing that up to say that there's the place in YouTube where you can block certain words. And it took us a couple days, but after that, when we just copied and pasted a recommended list on Google that we found, and just every word gets put in that list, and then YouTube will hold those comments for review. So that's a nice little barrier as far as like the social aspect of it that we kind of put up for ourselves. This kind of leads into another question we had, and I saw you posted a video about this recently, mental health and YouTube. What is your advice? I mean, like, just as creators, like not even the troll comments, because most people are very nice, and you just sort of like learn to roll with the punches, even though occasionally it does hurt. But for us, especially like the creating process, like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to make everything the best. And, YouTube alone on the back end uses a lot of like red analytics and down arrows, and you're constantly reminded like this video is not performing, like you're down your stats. How do you manage all of that? I know it's a very loaded question, but what is your advice for mental health in YouTube?
Yeah, and that has definitely been like a huge part of my journey, is like trying to figure out how to let go of some of that stuff, because it's tough. Like for me, like especially in my case, but I know a lot of YouTubers will feel this way, because in order to kind of be consistent enough to eventually be successful on YouTube, you have to really, really care about it. But for me, like being a full-time YouTuber was like a dream that I had for like a decade, like ever since I was a young teenager, and it even became a thing that people would make money on YouTube. It's what I dreamed of doing. So I've always just like cared more about my YouTube channel than like pretty much anything else, like that's just, for me, it became a real almost like analog for my own worth as a person, which is not what you want to have. But like, for me, it's like, oh, 1 out of 10. Yay. That means I'm a worthwhile human. Right. 10 out of 10. Oh my gosh, I hate myself. And so that, obviously is a very unhealthy position to be in. And I think especially too, when you can kind of get into that, what I was talking about before, like the transactional audience where you're like making stuff for the sake of the algorithm. I kind of got to a point in like the summer of 2021 where I really felt like, oh my gosh, I don't even like the videos that I'm making. I'm just making these for the sake of the algorithm. And then the algorithm doesn't even really like them. So like, what is the point of all of this? And I was just so completely burnt out. Like the idea of even, filming a video or whatever just completely like overwhelmed me. And so at that point I was like, I'm just going to pivot my channel. I'm going to start making whatever I want and like not, care about anything anymore. But at the same time, I felt very conflicted about that because my entire business was built on my YouTube channel. Like even my social media marketing agency, like our clients find us through my social content. Mm-hmm. So I knew it was like a big, kind of risk to take to just pivot my channel. And anyway, I did that for like 3 months. And eventually I kind of realized like, it wasn't really fulfilling me either to just like kind of I actually started doing a little bit of van life stuff on my main channel. And then after I started a second channel for it, but I realized that didn't really fix anything for me to just do this hard pivot, and kind of like run away from my sort of like insecurities or whatever. And I actually like kind of found myself eventually, like probably 3 months after like giving up on social media tips, having a few ideas of like, maybe it'd be fun actually to make a video about like this thing that's happening on Instagram. Or, what, I'd actually be interested in making like this kind of a video about like YouTube tips. And so I slowly kind of transitioned back into my original content, but in a way that felt a lot more authentic and kind of fun for me. So still talking about that subject matter that I knew my audience was there for, but doing it in a more creative way that I found more fulfilling. And I think my big lesson from that whole like dramatic moment of summer 2021 where I was like, everybody, I quit the Instagram tips, and then kind of walking back on that, what I learned was like, instead of just making this like radical choice to be like, I'm changing my whole career trajectory, I should have just like taken a break and maybe like taking a few weeks off of making videos, because I think I was so attached to this idea of like, okay, well, I have to keep going on YouTube. Like I absolutely have to keep posting. So I got to post something different. So then I'll feel better about what I'm posting. And it's like, girl, you should just take a week off, because I like literally would never, ever like take any time off from posting. Wow. And so I think, and yeah, what I learned from that is just like, you need to like rest instead of quitting. And I think for some people, quitting looks like just giving up on, their channel entirely and being like, I'm not going to keep posting because I'm just so burnt out. Mm-hmm. For me, what quitting looked like was doing this hard pivot and just like posting, van life vlogs on a channel that was about Instagram growth. And it would have been, probably more restorative for me to just not post for 3 months rather than really try to post this other kind of content, and then just come back to it or whatever. So yeah, I think that's been my biggest lesson is like, learn when it's time to rest instead of just like having this existential crisis and trying to change your life overnight. Like it's okay to just like take a vacation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just like a very dramatic person, but I've always kind of been like that, where I'm like, I'm a little bit unsatisfied. Maybe I'm going to change my name and move to a new country.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, whoa, chill.
You just need to take off. Yes, I get it.
Yeah. It's like, how about just go take a bath and read a book?
Truthfully, that's probably what we all need a little more often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever taken a break? Like, I mean, I know you pivoted a little bit for a while, but what are your thoughts on just taking a break? Because I mean, we've been forced to take breaks lately when we haven't wanted to, just because life has been crazy. But in those moments when we've been forced to and we're stressed, after a few weeks, we sort of feel that like tension, subside. Like it's like this balance of our channel needs the content, but also this is probably what we need right now in this season. Like, have you ever taken a break, and how did that go?
Yeah, so since I kind of pivoted my content back in like the fall of 2021, I have maybe missed posting like 1 week. So I really have like been I mean, obviously I haven't taken my own advice of just take a break, but I think I found like a little bit more of a balance of like feeling good about the videos I was making. But I will say very recently, I came back from like a big trip. I was in Spain and Portugal for 2 months, and then coming back, we were at camera camp right away, and then I was left like very stressed with like batching a bunch of content ahead of that so that I could still meet my brand deadlines. Because the thing is, part of what keeps me so consistent is because I have sponsorships booked into pretty much every YouTube video I do. So it's like, well, I have to post this because I have a contract saying I will post a video that day. So that like really keeps me accountable. But what I've realized, and what I'm going to implement next time I have, you know, like a big trip where I know I'm going to be in kind of like a transitional state, is just not taking a brand deal for those weeks and just taking time off. Because I've put a lot of pressure on myself to like do all of this batching ahead. So I'll be like making YouTube videos like a month in advance to be posting when I'm going to be away. And it's like, you know what? It'd be okay to just not post for those weeks. Like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So that's definitely something I'm going to do more often, like later this year when I have travel plans or whatever. Cause yeah, it's just not worth it to like really stress yourself out for like one YouTube upload, you know?
Yeah, that's how we are. I mean, we dream of batching content because I always feel like that would help us a little bit, but maybe it doesn't. I mean, obviously there's stress everywhere, but
I think that's the hardest thing is like, it'll be okay if you take a break, right? That's the hardest thing to grasp, because when you're doing YouTube full time or it's as a business, like we've been freelance for 15 years, you know, over 15 years. And if you're not working, you're not making money. Like that's just what it comes down to.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to break that mentality, especially like when you see everybody else crushing it. All the hustle culture. They're like, you know, you want to make money, you got to grind it till you find it, and just like you just keep going. And it's I think YouTube needs more of that, and I would love to see YouTube implement like a creator on break tab or something like that. You know, if they're listening right now, please, Renee, if you're
yeah, exactly. I feel like there would be so much benefit in YouTube Studio just allowing you to toggle on and off the little colorful arrows, because I like live and die by those little indicators. Like it's not good how much that affects me. Seeing like even right now on my, you know, main dashboard, like those 3 metrics that like it's like your whole channel under the subscriber count, all of mine are just little green check marks right now, and I'm like, please turn into a green arrow. Damn it, please turn into a green arrow. You know what I mean? And like it just really like affects you, and it's such a silly little thing. But it'd be great to even just not have that, because honestly, if I just saw the numbers, I don't remember what those exact numbers are in terms of like, oh, my watch time from the last 28 days. So if there was no indicator next to it, I would have no idea whether it was better or worse. And then, you know what, maybe I'd be like a happier person. But like, especially because taking a break will, for most people, like completely like be correlated with those numbers going down, then it can be very hard to let yourself do that. Because, you know, if you post one less video in a month, then your watch time is going to be lower, your views are going to be lower, your AdSense is going to be lower. And if you normally do brand deals, like for me, not posting a video in any given week, you know, that's like a substantial loss in income then, because normally, you know, I would have that. So yeah, it can be tough to kind of have all that stuff in one hand, but say, you know what, my rest is like worth all of that and more probably. But it can be hard to weigh that out just with like the pressures of all that stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
We feel that. I mean, the last couple of months have been our worst analytics ever, and we're coming out of it finally a little bit. But man, it does put anxiety on you. You're like, oh my gosh, I've got to create content. But then at the end of the day, like if you're taking a break, you need the break. And I think we're coming back more rested than what we've been in, I think, since pre-COVID, which COVID hit a year into our YouTube career. So I mean, like, I feel like we're kind of like on the mend a little bit, and it's just a break is good.
Yeah,
a break is needed.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned, and this is an entirely different topic, and you could dedicate hours to it. You know, about brand deals and working with, you know, different companies, and you know, trying to figure out your self-worth and like the worth of your YouTube channel and all of that. So, but I feel like a lot of people, when they start out, you know, a YouTube channel, that's what they see. They see the brand deals. They're like, oh, I want Ford to sponsor this, or I want, you know, Epidemic Sound or whoever to do this. But I don't necessarily think that's a good approach, because it takes a long time for one, these brands to reach out, but then two, a lot of these brands will take advantage of smaller creators and their worth and what they're putting. So, I mean, real briefly, like, do you have any guidelines on like making YouTube your business? Obviously you make money from AdSense, but then like when do you integrate the brands and when do you do all of that?
I feel like for me, I kind of waited to, well, I didn't wait, I don't know, that long, but like I waited until I got brand deals coming to me that were things that I like genuinely loved and wanted to promote, rather than like seeking out whatever random opportunity I would maybe get some money from. And I feel like I was really lucky because I actually got my first brand deal when I had just like, I think about like 3,000 subscribers. So not a lot. But shout out to Storyblocks. I feel like Storyblocks must have been like at their very beginning of their kind of like influencer kind of campaign. This was like, I want to say late 2018 or something. So like a long time ago. But anyway, so I work with Storyblocks now, which is funny. And I'm like, well, I'm getting them a lot more views than I did on that first video. But for me, when I got that like email from them, first of all, I was like, is this real? And then second of all, I was like, yeah, like I use Storyblocks. Like I would love to promote them. So I feel like if you can make sure that you feel really aligned about the brands that you are promoting, that's a really good first step. And I think that, you know, there is room to like go ahead and pitch brands, but for the most part, the reality is the majority of creators are getting brand deals from brands reaching out to them. So I think it's more effective just to kind of focus on the discoverability of your content rather than trying to go out and do a ton of pitching.
For sure.
And then, yeah, beyond that, I think there's other creative ways to monetize. Like if you can, you know, make affiliate links for stuff that you would promote otherwise if you're not at the stage to get brand deals yet, or even consider like, is there some kind of other, you know, maybe digital product you can offer, like a little ebook, or like for me, it's like Notion templates. Like I sell a lot of Notion templates, like content calendars, that kind of thing. Or even like a little workshop or like live event that you'd maybe sell tickets to. I think there's a lot of really creative ways for creators to kind of start making money outside of just waiting for the brand deals to come in.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Katie, thank you so much. I know we're coming up on time here. So is that,
we could talk for like hours.
I know.
I mean, yeah, we could talk for hours, and I love
much information.
I love that you did give examples of different ways to make money, because we've always been, I remember this analogy of like, you know, you have different buckets, and like, you know, and so, you know, maybe Storyblocks paid you really good this month, and then, but you didn't make any money on affiliates. So, but you're okay. But then the next month you didn't get any money from Storyblocks, but you have all this affiliate money. And so it's always nice to have all these different buckets of money. Like you're not Scrooge McDuck, but it all pennies, it adds up after a while.
Totally. Yeah. Diversifying your income is so important for creators because it can be so volatile.
Yeah. Especially self-employed.
So before we wrap up, is there anything, any last statement, anything that you just want to say for anybody starting a YouTube, in the YouTube world, whatever, like this is your time to shine? Like what do you want to say?
I would say if you're out there thinking of starting a YouTube channel, especially if you've been considering doing it for a while, this is your sign that you've been waiting for. You should start and just like follow your creativity, follow your passion. There's a time to be strategic, and that can definitely help you grow. But I think the most important thing is that you kind of don't let the analytics dull your shine, and you stay true to what you really care about and what you really want to share, and just go out there and find that community. I found it so fulfilling to get to meet other folks through YouTube that, you know, also live in vans or also care about camera gear or whatever. It's just so fulfilling to meet other people that you share values and interests with. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of starting to grow an online community. So just go after it. That's my advice.
That's good advice. I'm like passionate now, or I'm excited. I'm like, let's go create.
Let's go make something right now. Get in the tuk-tuk and go. Like,
thank you, Katie. And Katie, where can people find you online?
So you can find all of my Instagram and YouTube strategy tips at youtube.com/Katie, or just search Katie Steckly on YouTube. And you can follow me on Instagram at Katie Steckly. And if you do like travel content, which you probably do if you're listening, then you can check out my travel vlog channel, which is Katie and Dan in a Van.
I love it. And also, can we take a second and recognize how long you've been on YouTube? That you have youtube.com/Katie.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
I like to flex that at every chance I get. So.
You said that earlier. I was like, surely she meant Katie Steckly. And then you said it again. I was like, oh no, she really meant Katie.
Yeah,
like, that's really impressive.
That is impressive.
Man, long game. And there's something to be said about like pushing through the burnout just to keep creating. Like if you can do it Like, just, yeah, don't lose that.
Yeah.
But Katie, thank you so much. We will link all of your information down below. Thank you for being here. And maybe we'll have you back again someday because this conversation could go for hours.
Yeah.
So.
I would love to. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to What No One Tells You with Chris and Sara. If you have a comment or question that you want answered on the air, be sure to send us a message to hello@chrisandsara.com, or you can call or text our phone number at 423-825-9572. Thanks for listening.